Hello and welcome to another edition of Conservative Corner. We are a monthly news magazine, or rather a monthly news political show, based here at the wonderful New TV Studios in Newton, Massachusetts. We deal with local, state, and national issues from a, shall we say, different perspective than what you will see here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and specifically in the area in which we are, the Boston-Newton area. By that I mean the media and the politics in the state are very much slanted to the left, especially now. The Democrats control the state. The Democrats control every statewide elected position, including all 9 congressional seats, much to our dismay. We, as a Republican Party, are more or less backbenchers. We are in the loyal opposition. However, we are loyal in the sense that we are very loyal to our federal government and to our President Donald Trump and to the Congress, which is Republican, and the Senate, which is Republican. And for that, we are very grateful to all 3 branches of the government, which are very heavily Republican. And that will continue for a very long time. So while we may not have achieved that type of hegemony politically in our state, we more or less wink and nod and we say, well, that's Massachusetts. But nevertheless, we're still trying, and we will continue to try to make inroads with our Republican Party and our Republican values into the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we believe that while we are down now politically, we'll be back in a year, 2, 3. It may take a while, but we always come back. You can count on that with the Republican Party of Massachusetts. But here we are. It's towards the latter half of March, and that means we've now been close to 60 days, if not more, by the time you see this show, into the Trump administration. And I'm sure that many of you have noticed that things have happened rapidly in a very positive direction. Basically, if you can picture this, picture the Kentucky Derby, picture Suffolk Downs, when the alarm goes off, when the gun goes off, and the jockeys and the horses zoom right out of the gates. Well, that's exactly what the Trump administration has done. Right from January 20th, right from the day of the inauguration, which I was very happy to attend. Right from that day, it has been a nonstop movement forward, forward, forward. Trump has done so much to reverse the, shall we say, the chaos of the last administration, that it's hard for both the established media and the Democrats to keep up with them. They can't. So much has been happening. And with that in mind, we have with us a very distinguished member of our Massachusetts Trump campaign, who was the co-director, the co-chair of the Massachusetts Italians for Trump, and de facto New England Italians for Trump, who is a very effective member of our very successful campaign to elect Donald Trump, and that is Dr. Dominic Amara of East Boston. And thank you, Doctor. I'm really glad to have you back here. We've had you here before, and I'm very glad to see you again. You know, Dom, when on the election, when it did happen, I was very nervous when it happened, but things went our way very quickly, and by the next morning we could breathe a sigh of relief. And of course, as we got towards the inauguration itself, we knew that things were going to be happening quickly and moving in a very, very effective direction. So now that we're here, 2 months beyond the inauguration, and this is, people talk about the first 100 days, we're talking about the first 60 days. What are your feelings, having been involved really in the threshold of the Trump campaign throughout most of 2024? What are your feelings as of now, and what do you see happening? And just give us a sense of where we've been and where we're going.
Well, I think what I've seen and is that I think what Trump has done has put his money where his mouth is. We saw in the Clinton campaign, we saw in the Obama campaign, where there was a lot of rhetoric that they were going to get rid of the waste, and I think that's his key, besides the border issues, et cetera. But I think the Americans wanted to see the elimination of waste. There was a lot of rhetoric about that. what he did was he said, I'm taking a different tack. I'm going to actually do it administratively, because doing it through the Congress would never happen, because people in the Congress would not want to eliminate or reduce their ability for their perks. And he said, I'm not going that route. I'm going to do it directly. Because if I'm going to go to the Congress and saying, I want a bill to pass this to get rid of this particular waste, et cetera, it would have been so convoluted, nothing would happen. What he did was to do it directly. And I think I give him all of the credit, the intelligence. He picked one of the best people in the world to do that. And he's doing it surgically, rather than to try and entice people with this as way it ought to be done, et cetera, et cetera. So I think most people, if they're honest with themselves, saying that Trump is really the economic savior of this country, because we could not continue to go on the way we're going. We can't keep on spending what we don't have. I mean, people saying, I want this program for this money, I want this money for this program, et cetera. What if we don't have any money? And that's essentially where we were going. And I think without Trump, America would have been bankrupt in a generation.
Doctor, I remember, as do you, the tail end of the Reagan administration into the George H.W. Bush administration into the Clinton years, where there was such a turnaround in the economy from the Great Society and prior to that the New Deal, where Reagan at least slowed the level of spending for the federal government. And it reverberated in a positive way for the economy. The economy was booming right through the 90s, to the point where there were several years where the budget was actually balanced. And to think of that happening now would not be the case. We can't think of that right now. And I do recall at that time, George H.W. Bush was pushing for a balanced budget amendment. He tried so hard, but he didn't. He was working with the Democrat Congress. Now, picture if we had that today. We wouldn't be in this fiscal mess. This country is trillions in debt. So what does Trump do? Trump is a businessman. Trump is one of the most successful business people in the history of the country. He's amazing in what he's done. And he's brought the smartest business people into his administration. And they say, well, it's a billionaires club. But bear in mind, Trump is not taking a salary. Trump doesn't care about making more billions than he already has. I mean, Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary, the same thing. I'd be surprised if he's taking a salary. They're doing this because they want to make the country better. They care about the future of the nation. They care about the American people. And above all, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, at last count, $235 billion. And again, his critics will say, oh, he wants to get more billions. I mean, for God's sakes, once you have $235 billion, what does it matter if you have $1 billion or more that you're going to get? In fact, his companies, from what I understand, are losing money. But the fact is that these people are altruistic, they are real patriots, and they want to correct the sinking ship, which is the American government, the U.S. government, and quite frankly, the economy of the U.S. And they're doing a very good job of it. What has been happening in the past 60 days is really outstanding, to the point where the opposition can't keep up with what they're doing. They're moving at rapid pace, rapid pace, rapid pace. Every day it's something new. Every day it's something different. They're bringing billions and trillions of dollars back into the country. They're putting up tariffs there to keep Europe and the Far East, China and Japan, from encroaching on American markets. They're even going after Canada and Mexico. They're doing wonderful things for the economy.
I would add this, that there's going to be a certain amount of adjustment, even pain, if you will.
Yes.
And I think Americans, at least a large number, understand that in order to right the ship, there's going to be some pain. And if we can understand that, otherwise, we're not going to fix this country. And I think that it needs to be fixed. And most people understand that, yes, okay, the prices are going to be going up, because some of these, what was happening was we were getting these, quote, cheap goods, and the cheap goods were from China or whatever it is, from a subsidized industry in their government. We were getting these products, but at the same time, we were losing industry in this country. So we were losing jobs, and that had an effect on our balance, our debt. So unless Americans really understand that we are really going to have some pain, but eventually this is going to be we're going to be better for it as a country, and we're going to be better. Our kids are going to be better. Our grandkids are going to be better. We're going to leave them something that if we had continued on the way we were going, this country would have been so far in debt that it would have collapsed. And I think that you can say this or not, but Trump has been God sent. Without him, if we had had an administration similar to the last one, would have been an absolute disaster for this country.
You know, Dom, you mentioned God sent, and Trump is the first to admit he's not necessarily a church-going individual. But nevertheless, when the assassination attempt was made on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania last July, and if he had just turned his head a little bit, the bullet would have gone right into his head and killed him. But it nicked his ear, and his life was spared. And I think that, you know, they say that when Ronald Reagan was shot and almost died in 1981, that he really saw it as divine intervention. And they say that Trump is thinking along those ways as well. And so whether it is or not, you know, that's for the clergy to determine, for the religious people to determine. But the fact of the matter is that that Trump has been moving in such a rapid pace to change things quickly because he's really in a hurry. He has 4 years in which to do it. And you know, Dom, he reminds me of, comparisons have been made between Donald Trump and, say, Teddy Roosevelt and also Andrew Jackson. But I would make a comparison between him and another president, the most underrated president in the history of the country, and that's James K. Polk, who was president from 1846 to 1850. Now, why was he such a great president that nobody ever heard of? He doubled the size of the country. And by that I mean, he initiated and won the Mexican War, made Texas a part of the country, the entire Southwest a part of the country, the Northwest, the Oregon Territory, consolidated the borders within the United States, the continental United States. And that's what he wanted to do from the time he got into office. He worked 80 hours a week to do that, and he was going to be in one term, and he accomplished all that, James Polk. And he worked himself feverishly that within, I believe, 6 months to a year after that, he keeled over and just died. Now, obviously, we don't want that to happen to Trump, but what I'm saying is that Trump could be as consequential as that in a different way with regards to the economy, with regards to reasserting America's position in the world. You know, because if the other side had won, our leadership in the world would have shifted to China. Now it's not going to. We're still basically running the world. And
well, I think there's another piece to this, that why he is moving so rapidly. He sees a lot of what he's doing now as he sees a lot of executive orders, but he understands that executive orders can change in the future. Mm-hmm. What he also sees is that government is tenuous at best. So he wants people to realize, I think, that the policies that he is putting forward have some real value. And in order for his ideas to be codified into law, he has to have individuals in the Congress who think the way he does and can pass some of his executive orders, put executive orders into law. And if that happens, then he has more than 4-year impact on American history.
Yes, indeed.
So he's looking at this and saying, I see an election coming up, that midterm election coming up. He wants people in there who can give him a strong Congress, a Republican Congress, a conservative Congress, one that can solidify his ideas. And I think then he's going to have that kind of long-term impact that he's looking for. Not just one of which I think the Republican ideals are finally going to take hold. Whether or not they're going to be a Republican Party, that we perhaps would love to see, that's going to take a long time. But I think conservative ideals are what he's after, and I think we see that now.
Well, you know, it's interesting. If I want to just shift to the Commonwealth, to the state for a moment, there are still some bastions, usually what I call the bookends, the West Coast, California, and then you have the East Coast, New England, New York, which are still trapped in their liberal biosphere, their liberal circles. And they don't understand or grasp that the country has moved on from them. And when I say them in particular, I'm referring to the governor of the Commonwealth, Maura Healey, and the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, and both of whom are so out of touch with the mainstream in this country, it's unbelievable. Now, for example, the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, basically humiliated herself and the city of Boston when she testified at a congressional hearing and tried to explain why she's against ICE and the federal government taking illegals out of Boston, and how she and her police department are not going to cooperate with the federal authorities to do that. And she's a protege of Elizabeth Warren, which shouldn't surprise us. She's completely clueless. Then you have Maura Healey, who has been spending over $1 billion of our tax money, of our state tax money, which you and I, within a month, will have to pay, unlike New Hampshire, which has no state taxes, in order to cover the housing and other related costs for the illegal immigrants. And eventually what's going to happen is the federal government, under Kristi Noem, Homeland Security, and under Tom Homan, the head of ICE, they're going to get tired of their rhetoric, and they're going to come in and basically clean up the city of Boston, clean up all the surrounding areas, get the illegals out with or without the cooperation of the state authorities. And not only that, but I can picture the federal government under Donald Trump getting fed up and just pulling the plug on all types of federal aid to the state. Not just this state. It's going to happen in Illinois, it will happen in Oregon, and it will happen in other places. And it will be deserved, well-deserved, in a negative way, because they will have brought it upon themselves. They are completely clueless. And, you know, does Maura Healey really believe that the people of the Commonwealth want illegals in the midst?
No, I tell you,
live in Boston.
As a resident of
Boston,
I'll tell you that if you ask most people who really are in the know, the ordinary person that gets up and goes to work and goes to church, and they do not want to see criminal elements in their neighborhood. For her to say that, for Mayor Wu to say that she is not going to cooperate is a slap in the face to Boston. It's a slap in the face to people who get up in the morning and go to work and want a safe environment for their kids. And unfortunately, these people have yet to understand that they have the power of the vote. And when they realize they have the power of the vote, if indeed they exercise that power, then I think she's toast. Mm-hmm. And I think the Republican Party in the state has to do a better job of notifying or educating people in Boston and in the state. But if we're talking about Boston, we don't want that kind of element in our city for our kids, for our neighborhoods. And I think that a strong education program is necessary on the part of the state. Republicans have that kind of responsibility. If they don't do that, then that abrogation is to their detriment, and the detriment of the state and detriment of the city.
Now, I'm sure that you watched, as did we all, the president's address before both houses of Congress.
Yep.
And we saw those fools in the Democrat Party sitting there like automatons, just sitting there like robots, and they didn't move an inch.
They were programmed.
Despite the fact that they wouldn't even stand for or applaud or acknowledge the special guests that the president had. For example, the 14-year-old boy who was recovering from brain cancer, who Trump made an honorary member of the Secret Service, the young man who Trump led into West Point at that time, the young lady who was killed by illegal immigrants, whom Trump named a national seashore area after her. And the list could go on and on. So looking in the audience, I happened to notice Catherine Clark from Winthrop, who just sat there like the arrogant fool that she is, sat there practically on her hands, as did Congresswoman Lori Trahan and that fool Jim McGovern from Worcester. And they didn't respond at all, as if they have ice in their veins. How could you not stand and applaud for a young boy who's going through cancer, who's so proud to have gotten this honorary, to be honored by the president? And then the biggest one, of course, was Elizabeth Warren. And for the life of me, I can't understand why the people of this Commonwealth keep voting her in. We had a wonderful candidate, a Marine, John Deaton, who ran against her, and he got only 40% of the vote. He was a superb candidate, and yet we let her back in. She's an embarrassment. Elizabeth Warren is an embarrassment to the Commonwealth, and Ed Markey is up for re-election in, I believe, 2 years, maybe even next year. He's got to go as well. He was there he's been there since I was in high school, for God's sakes. He was there when I was 16 years old, and I'm in my 60s right now. The point is, these people are an embarrassment to our Commonwealth. You know, at the convention, Republican convention in Milwaukee, we had a very distinguished speaker at one of our Massachusetts breakfasts, and it was Byron Donalds, congressman from Southwest Florida. And I asked him privately, I said, what do we do about that, all of our Congress people? He said, I don't know, they're crazy. And he used the term crazy, because they are crazy. And the problem is they represent us. You know, of the 9 of them, one is worse than the other. None of them are any good. None of them are at all. And it's an issue and it's a problem. So the bottom line is, it's hard to get them out of office, but we have to try. We have to try as much as we can.
But here's my question to you, is that with more and more of our population, even within the state, being independent.
Mm-hmm. They're the largest voting bloc.
Right. It's therefore a cultural issue, mm-hmm. and less a political one, I think. They're not married to the Democratic Party any longer.
No, not at all.
So this is, to me, sounds like a great opportunity for the Republican Party.
It is. It certainly is. And
what is that? I'm going to ask the next question,
yes.
which is going to be perhaps difficult for you, because you're the expert.
Oddly.
But you are an expert. You're one of the most intelligent people I know on this. Why? And because I have no skin in this game directly, but why is it that is the Republican Party not stronger in terms of its message? Because I think if you had a stronger message, you'd have a stronger result.
I will say this. So over the past 2 years, we've been in restructuring mode. When Charlie Baker didn't run for re-election, that whole fundraising apparatus basically shut down, went with him. He's not coming back. We wanted him to run against Markey. He's not doing it. And so we're really, I won't say cast off, but we're in rebuilding mode. And what we try to do is focus on the state legislatures and the state Senate to try to get candidates to run and win, to try to do our best to try to do it on a statewide grassroots level. We're trying very hard. There's also a funding problem. So to our viewers, the state Republican Party is always looking for funds. We do have to get our message out because we're in the mainstream. The Republican Party in America, we're the mainstream. The Democrats are the radical left. They just are. Look at what's happening in this state, in California. So we're in the mainstream, but we're not, as of yet, a powerful Republican Party in the state. We want to be, and we're trying very hard to do that, and we're trying to get candidates to run. But it's difficult. Now, I'll give you a quick aside. Caroline Colarusso ran for Congress against Catherine Clark in mostly Middlesex County. She ran twice. The first time, she wasn't able to do much because she had family issues. Her mother was in a convalescent home, et cetera, et cetera. So she wasn't able to do much. She got 1/3 of the vote. The next time she worked 80 hours a week, she got 1/3 of the vote. And I'm driving with her through Woburn and Stoneham, and she says, Tom, how can these people vote for Catherine Clark? It's mind-boggling. And so there's the issue. What she was insinuating, what many are, is that the system is rigged against us. Is it? I don't know. We've been trying to figure that out for a long time. But again, for the life of me, I can't figure out why people still vote for people like that, Catherine Clark. Or last time, Jim McGovern in Worcester County, we had very good candidate Jeffrey Sosa Paquette run against him. Why did he only get 1/3 of the vote? Why do the people keep reelecting these folks? And especially, I'm getting back to Elizabeth Warren. It's a travesty. It's a real problem. We're working, your Republican Party in this state, of which I'm a state committee member, is working very hard to rectify that. We're out there every day, believe me, and we're doing our best. We're doing the very best that we can. But Tom, Doctor, we have 2 minutes left, and while the political stature of the Republicans in the state isn't looking bright as of now, nationally it is. So what are your thoughts as we approach the last 2 minutes of the fastest talk show in the Boston area circuit?
Well, I think Donald Trump is doing a marvelous job. He's demonstrating that personal fortitude that I think it's a model for people.
Yes.
And I think that if that model is picked up and say there's a strength here, and I can hang on to that strength, I can as an individual, be a Republican, Democrat, or other, I can see the good in what he's doing. Therefore, I'm going to support that. I may still even have a D after my name, but I still can support what he's doing because it's valuable to me and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, et cetera.
By the way, as of now, we're starting to see results. Gas prices are coming down, inflation
Yes,
is
yes,
coming down, interest
yes.
rates are coming down. Things are looking good, and they're going to continue to look good as we move into the future in the coming weeks
But
and
I
months.
want to warn, I think I see the warning signs ahead, and I think other people do. There are going to be some tough times because there are forces outside that I see. It's not going to be all roses, and I think people should understand that. At least that's what I see.
Yes.
I would want people to say that it's the long game, and I think Trump is in it for the long game.
I agree. And Elon Musk, we're with you. The country's with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your public service. God bless you.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.